thank you again for coming. I'm such an extrovert. I'm just excited to be around other human beings, even though actually I can't see any of you. But again, yeah, let me know any questions as we go on. I will be moderating the comments, and let's just dive right in. Okay, so you are in the right place. Let's make sure you're in the right Zoom room. If you either have arthritis and struggle with some of the everyday tasks due to your arthritis, or feel overwhelmed or in need of more support, and potentially you might have been left on your own to try to figure out how to manage the disease on like a day-to-day basis, right? So you also may be here, or you're in the right place if you're here to help other people. You might be a healthcare provider, or you might simply be someone who has a similar condition. It might not be technically one of the forms of arthritis, but it could be something that affects your ability to perform everyday tasks due to pain or other issues. So hopefully that's why you're here, or you're in the right place if that's what you want. And yeah, the agenda for today, I'm gonna be introducing myself, just because I know a lot of you actually from social media, but there's some new faces here too. So I'm gonna give you a few of the basics, kind of that teach a man to fish instead of just giving a man a fish concept. I'm going to explain some of the reasons behind certain life hack recommendations. But that said, I know a lot of people are like, just tell me what to do. So we're going to go through a day in the life using my example from my own life of all the different little things you can do throughout the day to make your life easier. So, but so what? Why should we even learn these? Well, hopefully it's self-evident for those of you who took the time out of your busy days to be here, but it actually can help you prevent pain, prevent pain from happening in the future, and also reduce the pain you're currently experiencing. It can give you a sense of control, and then you can improve your quality of life and confidence and your ability to actually have some sort of effect on your disease, because these, especially the autoimmune forms of arthritis, they tend to feel unpredictable a lot of times, and we feel kind of out of control. But knowing how to manage your everyday tasks through life hacks can actually give you some of that control back, so that you can actually, live a life you love, live your best life despite arthritis. That's really kind of one of my main theses, I guess you would say, is, I'm trying to figure out how can you live a great life despite arthritis, because there may or may not be a cure in our lifetime. So let's figure out how to actually live with it while we're here. So if that resonates or doesn't resonate, let me know, I guess. Yeah, love it. Despite, thank you. And so, okay, who am I? First of all, I am very talkative, so I have to really keep an eye on the timer, because I just want to I just could talk about all this stuff for literally like 5 hours. But okay, so yeah, let me know where you're from in the comments or in the chat. I am from the Seattle, Washington area, born and raised, and I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis right before my 22nd birthday. Oh, we got San Francisco and Florida here too. Oh, my cat has joined me. Oops, I made sure the dog is out of the way, but the cat has decided to join. And we got, North Carolina, Mississippi, Georgia, Pasadena, Fremont. Oh my gosh, that's where I used to live. Monterrey, Mexico. Wow. Oh, it's so great to see people from so many places. This is awesome. California. Wow. Okay. So, back to my schedule here. I have a master's in occupational therapy, which I got at Samuel Merritt University in Oakland, California in 2010 to 2012. And so there was about 7 years in between my diagnosis and when I became an occupational therapist. And that kind of plays into, I'm going to share a little bit more about what I learned as an occupational therapist and why that's so important, these skills for people to learn who have arthritis. And we got Canada too, and Colorado. Awesome. And I've also been a teacher at the occupational therapy assistant program here in Kirkland, Washington, called Lake Washington Institute of Technology. And I'm also a mom, and I founded Arthritis Life. So Arthritis Life is a very small, it's a solopreneur business, and it's a health education business I formed last year. Very interestingly, before the pandemic, but the whole goal is to do accessible in terms of, remote online-based education for people with inflammatory forms of arthritis primarily, but also osteoarthritis too. So those of you, I know one of you in this audience is an occupational therapist, but a lot of people don't know what occupational therapists do. So we have a little bit of an unofficial mascot in our profession, and we call it OT Rex. So occupational therapists give people the tools, like in the case on the right here, the little gadget, the grabber, reacher grabber, the tools to actually perform the action that is necessary in their life. So in this case, the apple is a metaphor for whatever it is that you want or need to do, what's important to you in your life. And, obviously without having the tools, we feel sad. And with the tools, we feel happy. So it's not always so simple though, right? There isn't one tool for every single task. Sometimes I don't know how to picture this, but sometimes what we do, well, actually we alter the environment. So I should put a third picture here, is that we look at the interaction between the person and their environment and the task that they want to complete. So another picture, the third one would be like somehow moving the apple tree, or giving the T-Rex actually the faster one would be giving the T-Rex a step stool, so that you change the environment so that he can achieve the task that he wants, which is getting the apples. So I also have a pediatric background, which is why I've always loved childish things. Sometimes people are like, you're having an adult company, why do you like these childish things? So I wanted to share a little bit of my own toolbox. So I developed a lot of tools to manage my rheumatoid arthritis just through trial and error, like other patients do, but also through my training as an occupational therapist. And I am going to answer this question, Ashley, by the way, it's such a good question. But, it's not just about the physical. That's one of my little soapboxes, that arthritis affects everything in your life, right? Your mind, your social life, your relationships, your romantic relationships, family relationships, and it involves a lot of time and money to manage it. So I have developed my own toolbox that I teach in my program. So this actually, really quickly, this relates to my rheumatoid arthritis roadmap program, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more later, but it's an online course with an optional support program that has been really, really powerful for people this year. I just created it in the spring, and given a lot of feedback by people in the beta group, like about what they really, really need. And, it's getting all three of these areas: physical, which a lot of the healthcare system tends to just focus right on pain and fatigue, but we also need to look at our emotional lives and our social lives, and then become the CEO of your care team. So you can also, I'm anticipating a question. You're going to maybe wonder, where can you find my master list of these? Oh, Mary Beth is, okay, she's giving testimonial, real-time testimonial, that it's jam-packed with great information, the course. Thank you. If you go to bit.ly/Cheryl Faves, you'll see links to all the products I'm going to a lot of the products I'm going to talk about today. And I am part of this Amazon affiliate program, which just means that if you buy something from that link, it gives me a small amount of money. But I'll just disclose, I looked at it today, I have made $1.95. So it's really more just like making it easier for people to find what I'm talking about. It's not like, I'm not swayed by that $1.95, in case you were worried. You're like, oh no. Okay. And so, I do want to give a medical disclaimer. This is important. So that this is meant for general education purposes. So I am an occupational therapist. There's my little degree, but you're not like receiving occupational therapy by listening to this. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to quickly review what arthritis actually means, because a lot of people don't know. So arthro means joint, and itis means inflammation. So the joint is the space between the bones. And so there's a lot of stuff in there. It's not just like empty space like this picture, but the fire is supposed to be showing your inflammation. But that inflammation, the root cause of that could be lots of different things. So you have to know what the root cause is to be able to determine the best solution for it. So there are over 100 different diseases that can cause arthritis, aka joint inflammation. And the autoimmune and autoinflammatory forms are the ones like psoriatic arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, which is what I have, ankylosing spondylitis, and juvenile idiopathic arthritis. I was going to, answer Ashley's question was, do you believe you actually had juvenile arthritis? So I was diagnosed with the adult form of arthritis. They were really clear about that. They just said that because of my numbers and my blood work and everything that they had evaluated, they felt that I had the adult form, because they are technically different diseases. So I don't remember, to be honest, the exact reasoning behind all of that, but I do know that I was diagnosed with the adult form. So there's also the more prevalent form of arthritis is osteoarthritis, which is known as wear and tear. So, or mechanical arthritis, which just means the forces over time have caused joint degradation in the joint space. But typically it's just in the specific joints, like just the end of your pinky finger or just in your toe, versus these autoimmune, autoinflammatory, or systemic diseases that have other symptoms too. For example, the non-joint symptoms can include things like severe fatigue, fevers, appetite, weight problems, dry eyes, and other systemic problems. So these are really, unfortunately, they're really serious diseases that a lot of times people don't understand how serious they are because they just hear arthritis. So before I promise we're going to go to the life hacks really, really soon. But I wanted to explain the idea behind a lot of these life hacks is called joint protection, which is something, again, I never learned as a patient. I just learned it as an occupational therapist, but I think all patients should be exposed to it, which is why I'm teaching you it. It means changing how you approach tasks so you don't put extra strain on your joints. And there's tons of evidence on the fact that if you learn these strategies, then you can have better functional ability and better pain levels. And we all want less pain, right? So let me know in the chat. Oops, my chat disappeared. Which one of these do you think would be better to protect my thumb joints? Number 1 or number 2? Let me get my chat back. 2, yeah. Oh yeah, some of you already know because you've been in the class, and also maybe you're just intuitive. Yeah, so number 2 is better because I'm stabilizing him with my larger joints. So one of the things with arthritis, that the kinds of arthritis like rheumatoid that tend to affect your tiny joints and your fingers and toes, you want to use your larger muscles and larger joints to stabilize rather than relying on your small hand joints. But come on, how hard is it to just want to hold a baby like that? They're just so cute. You just want to hold them in front of your face and look at them. So even if you know this, like I do, it's still really hard not to do it. I wish I could say that this picture was the only one I ever have of me doing it the wrong way, but that's not right. We're all human beings. So in layman's terms, there's really 2 different strategies that I think about with life hacks. I think about and protecting my joints. I think about how to change the way I interact with objects, and then how to change what I'm using. So the gadgets are like changing the stuff you're using. You're adding another thing. But you can also learn how to change the way that you interact so you don't have to buy a different object or buy a different gadget or gizmo. You can actually learn how to maneuver through the world a little differently. So, where's my there it comes. I was like, where'd it go? My mug. So you could, for example, change how you interact with the mug by, instead of holding it with the handle, you can see in the picture, the person's holding it with 2 hands. That's good because it distributes the force across multiple joints. You can also hold your regular purse around your elbow rather than holding it with your fingers. But you can also change the item you use. Like, for example, instead of using a manual hand cranked can opener, you could use a electric one. So that's what we're going to talk about. So I do cover a lot of the joint protection principles in my online course, just putting a little plug out there, a little bug in your ear. So, but for now, I want to just jump into the life hacks. Okay, I'm back on schedule because I rushed through that last part. Okay, this is what we're going to talk about, day in the life, organized by my day. But I did realize literally 3 seconds before we started this, I was like, I forgot to put toothbrushing in there. Oh, Winston raised his hands. Okay, by the way, you guys are maybe a little bit more savvy with all the different features of the webinar than I am, because I've only done a few webinars. So let me just see, Winston, if you don't mind putting it in the chat, that would be ideal, just so I can see it. Oh, you hit it by accident. Oh, good. I was like, I don't know how to call on someone. Okay, so for example, in your morning routine, you can start, let's say, assuming you have something like rheumatoid arthritis that has a pattern of morning stiffness, a few things that a lot of patients just kind of learn along the way to do, but you could do like a hot shower or apply heat to your stiff joints. Or if you're having inflamed, like really hot pain in your fingers or any parts of your body due to your arthritis, you could actually apply cold. So the general rule of thumb is whatever your joint is feeling, you do the opposite. So if your joint is like cold and stiff, we want heat to loosen it up. If it's really hot and inflamed. You want cold to like temper down that inflammation. Okay. Oh, and yeah, Jack holds the mug like this instinctively, also to make your hands warm. Oh, yeah. Yes. Okay. I love seeing these comments. So for showering, you might not have seen these before, but long-handled hair washers or long-handled like scrubbers are really handy, especially especially it's really more for if you have like joint range of motion in your shoulder. So shoulder contractures or shoulder issues from your arthritis, which I personally don't have, but I know other people who do. So you could use one of these devices so you didn't have to reach as much. Also, they do protect like tender, sore hand joints, so you're not having to like, you know, scrub and touch your hair as much. Oh, I was going to show you. So I really prefer like pump bottles to squeeze bottles for lotion. So let's pretend this is like a squeeze bottle. I have to really like when I squeeze with my, oh my God, why is this so hard? Oh, there we go. Squeezing with my thumb here, it involves a lot of pressure on, you can actually measure this. This is what's amazing in occupational therapy. We have these little like measuring, force measuring instruments where you can measure like how much force does it take to do different actions. So squeezing on something versus, so you're using, it requires not just the force, but the actual muscles, like tiny muscles in your hand and force on your joint, versus using a pump, you're actually, believe it or not, you're using like the muscles of like your shoulder and your upper back. And yes, you do have some force that goes onto your hand area, but see how like the actual joints of your fingers are not really very active. So changing your pumps, whether it's lotion or shampoo or conditioner, choosing the pump is a great idea. I'm not gonna say everyone has to go do that right now, but you can also buy empty ones like on Amazon, which is what I've done here. You can also, as a workaround, so part of this is also thinking about, okay, can I just avoid this task altogether? So you could also get something called no rinse bathing wipes, which are, you know, they're used a lot for people like after a surgery or something. But, you know, if you decide like you can't tolerate a shower, you just don't want to do it as much, you could use those wipes instead. I love my little droppy eyedropper gadget. I love the existence of it. I will admit, my RA isn't severe enough right now to where I have to use it a lot. But what this does, this is droppy. This is a picture of me doing, I literally did like a 7-minute long video on this, everyone. So I'm learning to be shorter. I've been doing TikTok lately, which is like 15 seconds, and Instagram Reels. And it's really challenged me to be like, get to the point. Because I'm not kidding. You can go on YouTube and it's like literally 9 minutes of me talking about those like different gadgets. But yeah, what it does is see that little thing that comes down? That's what you squeeze. So it increases, quote unquote, the lever arm, which is kind of like the idea of like on a seesaw. If you stand on like, or sit, not stand on the seesaw, sit on the end of it, it's going to go up and down easier. If you sit near the middle, it goes down harder, right? So I wasn't the best, you know, full disclosure, I wasn't an A student in kinesiology, but I learned enough to understand the basic principles, which like I couldn't tell you exactly how much force is required for this versus squeezing a regular, actually squeezing it directly with your fingers. But I know it's a lot less force required to squeeze this than it is to squeeze directly on the eye drops. So, and again, thinking of systemic symptoms for rheumatoid arthritis, we tend to have dry eyes. So we tend to use, people who have dry eyes have to use a lot of eye drops. Toileting. So first of all, a raised toilet seat can be a good idea if you have hip pain or knee pain because you don't have to bend as much. And you can also use a wiping aid like this store-bought one where, I guess it's probably hopefully clear in the picture, that you put the toilet paper you stick it in the end, and then you can reach behind yourself and wipe. So again, if you have like real limitations in your shoulder range of motion or elbow, or you just are having a hard time with the dexterity required to hold on to the tissue, this could be a great solution. Also, Christine on TikTok had a great homemade device she shared the other day, which was she just used tongs. But I think with arthritis, that might be a little harder because with tongs, you have to squeeze. But if you wanted to try like your at-home thing, just make sure to separate, for infection control, separate your toileting tongs from your cooking tongs. And also for lotion, again, I already mentioned the concept of the pump versus the squeeze. You can also get, I put this in the little promo video, this long handled lotion applicator, because I don't have very like severe quote unquote deformities in my joints, but I do have restricted range of motion in my a little bit of restricted range of motion. The only thing I can't do is like put lotion or like sunscreen on my back. So this thing helps. It's also a good back scratcher. And let's see, for grooming is just like, you know, getting your face and your hair ready. So letting your hair air dry. And again, you know, patience, we become like the experts in our own lives and our own experiences, right? So, you know, I'm sure some of you, I'm sure, have already thought of these things, but other times we like just get into habits and we don't even realize they're inefficient habits till like someone else points it out. So I thought I would do that. Oh, and what about the single? Yeah. So the single vial eye drop dispensers. Marcy's asking, there actually is a separate product and I have it, but I didn't put it in my little immediately available box. There's another device. It's designed for, it's very similar concept. It has a little pokey thing that pokes out. They have them for the single use, and I have tried them. It's hard to get used to. Yeah, the single vials, because preservative free is good for arthritis or for eye inflammation. So you get the single use vials, but they're even harder to use than the regular squeeze ones. So you can also use a dryer brush. Going back to hair, a lot of women lately have been recommending that to me. And you can try a couple different models to see which one works. For jewelry, this is a widely available little jewelry aid that anyone can use. And nail clippers, that's a really, again, the thumbs tend to be involved with osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. So things that like really require a lot of pressure on your thumb can be painful. And the thumbs, and my thumb and my pointer finger and knuckles are definitely the hardest or the most kind of prone to pain and inflammation for me. So what you can do is you can actually literally take your regular set of nail clippers and glue them onto like a piece of wood or anything, cardboard. And then that allows you to use your bigger joints to press down on the nail clipper instead of having to use your tiny little finger joints to squeeze. You can press it down because it's stabilized on the piece of wood. I should do that and take a picture of it. I just had a little bit of time management issues before this webinar. For getting dressed, so a button hook is a great little invention that was made forever ago, but a lot of people don't know about it. And it allows you, like you can see here, you just hold the button hook and then you slide it over your button, and you can use it to put the button on and also take it off. But you can also use a workaround that I do a lot, which is I just choose clothing that's easier. So for me, I choose clothing that has large, like loose buttons rather than a lot, even though I'm totally contradicting myself because I'm wearing that dress right now with the tiny buttons. But this is very loose. It's a loose material versus tight material. You can also, for zippers, you can, a lot of people have difficulty pulling and pushing down and up the zippers. So you can simply tie like a hair tie around there. Now the way I'm doing it in the picture isn't even like perfect because that still might aggravate your joints a tiny bit. But what it does is it allows you to, instead of having to, again, pinch and put that strain on your finger joints, you're using the larger muscles of your upper arm and back even. So you always are kind of thinking, okay, how can I use bigger joints in more areas of my body? My bigger joints, my ones closer to my core, and then release the tension and the, I sound like a yoga teacher now, release the force from your small joints. But again, you might have a form of arthritis that's like, if it is opposite for you, it doesn't tend to be like for rheumatoid, but let's say you have something else going on, then you might want to do the opposite. Like, oh, I want to use my small joints because my small joints are feeling great and my big joints are feeling terrible. For bras are hard. I'm lucky that I'm small chested, so I honestly just don't wear a bra. Like the majority of the time, I only wear when I really need to. But you can secure the clasp before putting them on if the clasp is the difficult thing, or you can just, a lot of people do the sports bra style. But what's hard about that is that it's still kind of like tight. Like anything tight is sometimes hard and awkward to get on. So, it involves a lot of like figuring out what's the balance between like something that's soft and easy enough to get on and doesn't have excessive clasps. But a lot of people also do like the front clasping versus the back, so they don't have to twist their elbows and their shoulders as much. Yeah, needing big chested suggestions. Yeah, that's a good reminder to me to look into that. And yes, with costochondritis is a terrible thing that I didn't know about till I went to the ER, because I had never heard of it and never had it before. But apparently people with arthritis are more likely to have it, which is inflammation of where the rib meets the sternum, and it's usually on the left side. So you feel like you're having a heart attack. And anyway, that's a whole other story. So I'm sorry for anyone else who's had it. But yes, it's hard to put on a bra when you have costochondritis. So a sock aid is a very typical recommendation by people like occupational therapists who kind of are obsessed with these kind of gadgets. And it allows you to pull the sock on without having to bend as much. So again, this is more for like hip or knee pain. It can be hard to get the actual sock onto the device if your main concern is like hand arthritis. So for what that's worth, a shoehorn also makes it easier for you to put your shoe on, because you put it like in the heel and then you can slide your foot down versus having to like put your finger in there to help get your heel in. And then again, the workaround would be simply choosing looser clothing without zippers and without difficult fasteners, and slip-on shoes. So for working technology, and I'm sure everyone's heard of this, sit ergonomically at the computer, the 99-90, but something that I've enjoyed recently is getting a really lightweight phone tripod. So this is my little phone tripod. I put things in pink to remind myself to do a little demo. So what I do is I could put my phone in here, which is fairly easy to do. And then I can have that sitting on the table, so I'm not having to hold, because when you hold a phone, it's at like it's a lot of times it's like at this angle that actually promotes in rheumatoid arthritis, it's called ulnar drift, which is where your joints tend to drift over time. Your fingers drift towards your pinky. The pinky is the ulnar side. So I just call it pinky drift because no normal people know what ulnar is, only like healthcare professionals. Sorry, we are normal too, but so you want to prevent anything that causes your fingers to go towards your pinky. So that has been really handy for me. An ergonomic keyboard, I have one, but I was going to demonstrate it, then I was like, no, because I don't want to accidentally like turn the webinar off. And so anything that, again, when a lot of keyboards that are flat, that is actually promoting that ulnar drift, because you end up to get to all the keys, you have to kind of angle your fingers out towards your pinky. So an ergonomic one allows them to rest in a more neutral position. Also using a lot of workarounds, speech to text technology, and the warmers. Everyone loved my little video on Instagram and TikTok of there's little hand warmers I found. Unfortunately, they're already like out of stock, but you can put these on there. They have the pink ones are out of stock, but they have brown ones. And so you put them on your hands and then you plug it into your USB and it keeps them warm, which I'm just like keep them around to just look at, because they just make me happy. This is important too, right? You can also use assistive touch, so you don't have to scroll. I don't know about you. I would love to hear in the comments how many of you like feel that your knuckles get aggravated by touchscreen use, because mine do pretty quickly. So you can use something called assistive touch, at least on the iPhone. And so that instead of having to scroll, it's the pressing and scrolling that gets to my joint sometimes. You can actually do a touch. You can pre-program your phone to have it just be a touch to scroll down. Yes, and hypermobility. Sorry, I'm catching up on the comments now. Yeah, I'm so sorry, Ashley. That is really, really hard. Yeah, I'm wearing sneakers loosely, so they're easy to get on and off. Yeah, well, I'm curious how many of you also wear shoes inside. I have like indoor sandals that are like ortho sandals, because when I have to walk around bare feet for longer, it hurts my soles of my feet. So also for work, just real quick, because a lot of people don't know, is you can request work accommodations if you're in the US, through the Americans with Disabilities Act. So things like getting more rest breaks or a later start time could be really beneficial for you. and talk to your human resources about that. Handwriting, a few people asked about. So there's tons of like alternate different kinds of pens out there, and of course, Dr. Grip. But a simple thing you can do is just, sorry, I'm going to get my example of my son's Star Wars pen. Get this foam tubing to create your own little built-up handle. So that's the concept like behind the Dr. Grip, is that the wide handle is easier to grasp because you're not having to, again, squeeze tightly with those tiny little finger joints, just stabilizing it loosely. So, you know, that can be something that helps with handwriting, but I really try to work around handwriting, and by work around, I mean avoid it, because it just is something it very much requires the smallest, tiniest muscles in your hands and your smallest joints, which are the ones that tend to be the most affected by rheumatoid arthritis. So I try to minimize it if possible by, again, using technology. For cleaning, I had just a few things. So some people were asking before I was taking requests, and they were asking about, you know, what about washing dishes by hand? And so, you know, one of the easiest things to make it easier for you is to soak them first for as long as you can to get all the gunk off, so you're not having to physically, like, mechanically get it off yourself using your own body and wear and tear on your body. And I'm sorry, yeah, Britt is saying writing is the worst. Yeah, anything. I mean, you can also, I don't know if you're a student, but you could also, if you're a student, you can request an accommodation of like a scribe or a note taker, or copies of the lectures, audio recordings, you know, just because it's just hard, to work around it. You can also use for scrubbing dishes, again, I'm sure most have thought of this, but using the wide handle scrubber versus the regular rectangular sponge, because the handle one is going to give you a little bit of this like kind of mechanical advantage. Oh, Jack's like, I haven't been barefoot in years. Yeah, go to the disabilities office. Yeah, sorry, if it's a job, it'd be like human resources, but if it's college or school, it would be like a disability office. And yeah, Dragon Naturally Speaking is a great software to do speech to text. So yeah, speech to text or talk to text is not just for cell phones, or sorry, I'm old. I'm 39, not like old, but you know, it's like I still call it like a cell phone, not like a smartphone. And yeah, so Dragon Naturally Speaking is an amazing program. It's been used for years for people with disabilities. And oh, you do that for a living? Oh my gosh, please, yeah, Michelle, anything you want to say, just chime right on in. Also, yeah, long handle brushes are where it's at. I find these so helpful to just for cleaning. So instead of having to bend over and getting into like a weird position, you could simply, and you don't have to press as hard when you use the long handle. So it's awesome. Ooh, and Dawn makes a new product. You can spray on dishes to pre-soak without water. What should they think of next? That's amazing. Yeah, cleaning a lot more with COVID, and because your hands and knuckles are hurting. Yeah, it definitely takes a toll. I do also do like Lysol spray to kind of, well, of course that's out of, you know, like it's almost out of stock now in a lot of places. But then afterwards you can be sure that, okay, even if I don't know this is bad, even if I didn't clean the table like perfectly, if I use the Lysol spray afterwards, then I can know that it's like pretty good. Other, you know, honestly, workarounds, you know, like I like to delegate these tasks to my husband. I know not everyone has someone that they live with that they could delegate to, but I strongly recommend that if you do, you take advantage of that or chunk tasks out. I actually learned this from one of the groups that I facilitated. One of the members said that she has certain days of the week for different tasks, so they're spread out throughout the week for cleaning tasks. So it's like Monday is floors, Tuesday is, you know, bathroom, Wednesday or was one bathroom, Wednesday is the other bathroom, Thursday is carpets, Friday is tables and countertops or something, or because those are kind of every day. But you know, that so that you're not like, a lot of people tend to like naturally wait till the weekend or wait till they're more free, but then it all piles up, and then if you try to do it all at once, it can be harder than just chunking it out. So meal prep in kitchen, this is one of people's like favorite things to talk about typically and ask about. So yes, I have done a couple of videos on this that you might have seen to get you into to come here. Oh, thank you, Marcy, for sending that. The Dawn Platinum dish. I'm totally gonna check that out. So there's all kinds of things. You could literally be doing like a 3-hour webinar just different workarounds for the kitchen, but just a few of my favorites are the handle knife, which is the one in the picture here. So again, it's utilizing your big shoulder and back muscles and big, strong areas versus your tiny little finger joints. And it really helps, particularly with thumb pain. A rocker knife is similar. It just but it involves a little bit more wrist action. Using wide grip utensils is that same principle from using a wide grip pencil. And then jar openers. I don't think we have time to actually do the full demonstration, but this is, if you haven't seen this is the Robo Twist. It's literally like an as seen on TV thing, but I heard about it from another patient. And it's a electronic opener. So you put for the jars, you put a jar here, and it literally, you don't have to do anything. You press the on button, and then it literally it's like a robot opener. So it's pretty cool. Again, Robo Twist, but it only works with certain sizes. You can also use Dyson or any sort of like rubber grippy material, like I'm using in this picture here, the Arthritis Foundation, quick plug, amazing organized nonprofit that does lots of patient advocacy and education. That they have, they've given these out at their events, but when you put a Dyson or a grippy material, even just shelf liner material around a jar, it makes it easier to open. And also you can use a multi-opener tool like in this picture, which I have linked on my little favorites list. So from a couple other things for storage. So like you have a lot of simple choices throughout the day that like kind of add up by the end of the day, right? So you can do like this Ziploc one is really lightweight and it's like a one touch to close. Okay, well I didn't do it perfectly, but and then whereas this one, this isn't the same as that picture because I've already gotten rid of those. But this one, I got these because these are really good for soups and like their freezer. They kind of get like airtight, but getting them on is okay, but taking the top off is hard. It's like I can feel that force and that strain on my joints. So you want to think about when you're, purchasing or organizing different, materials, what can I use that's easiest for my joints? Also, what I've started doing when my thumbs are really hurting, if I have a Ziploc or like a freezer thing of strawberries or something, instead of using the Ziploc that came on it, I will just roll it over and use a chip clip, because a chip clip is like a one-step action versus like having to continuously pull on the Ziploc. Another thing is you're squeezing. This is from last year. This is my COVID hair because I used to keep my hair shorter and I just haven't gotten a haircut since January. But last December, making little gingerbread cookies and squeezing the frosting. You could actually, on a frosting tube, the same principle could go with other things, but you can use like a hair tie around the top. Okay. Oh no. Yeah. Your neighbor would call it the weirdest hours, asking for help getting things off. Oh no. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Lock and Lock brand of containers are easy on the hands. Good to know. I'm like keeping these running lists of like everyone's favorite materials. For meal prep, I also like, and again, I'm not a gourmet chef. So if being a really gourmet chef is important to you, feel free to ignore this part, but I love getting these pre-cut, freeze-dried things, like freeze-dried, pre-cut garlic and onion, then I don't have to sit there and cut it, same with basil. You can also get fresh pre-cut, although I'm a little more worried about that with the pandemic currently. Grocery home delivery versus having to go to the store yourself and lift it a million times back and forth. Using scissors. I use my scissors all the time. Oh no, did I take them out? No, I didn't. So using scissors rather than opening with hands. So instead of opening like a bag of chips, I will, with my hands, I'll use these scissors, and these are these Fiskars Easy Action scissors, which you don't use them like this. You put your hand like this, and they're actually meant for people who are doing like fabric. But here, let me stand up. Oh, I didn't want to get my microphone here, but you go like this so that you're kind of using your other fingers and not your thumb. This is helpful for me because cutting with scissors is one of the things that actually really aggravates my thumbs. So in general, you can also delegate, of course, and you distribute the force over a larger area. So using two hands if possible, using whole arm movements rather than tiny little joint movements, and then putting your heavier items into lighter containers is super, super helpful. Okay, fatigue. This is one of the harder ones to work around, right? Like you can't, it's hard to work around fatigue, and but there are tools. That said, pacing yourself, planning your day ahead of time to where you put rest breaks in. I sometimes joke that like being an optimist is actually not a helpful thing if you have a chronic illness sometimes, because like you don't want to plan for like the best case scenario. You actually want to plan for a little bit more of like a medium to worst case, because like, for example, if I say, okay, I have, 12 hours in the day today that I'm going to be like kind of up and around, and I'm going to maximize every one of those 12 hours, I might just totally get fatigued and like burn my energy out really quickly. And I think a lot of you have probably already heard of the spoon theory, which is all about like, equating energy units like to spoons, and you only have an X amount per day, so you don't want to go through them super fast. So things like chunking can be really helpful to distribute your spoons over a longer period of time. And again, knowing your fatigue triggers and planning for those is huge. I have discovered, and I think it's partly because my methotrexate's been increased too, but sunlight and heat are huge fatigue triggers for me. So if I have to avoid them, like I've just found out that I can't even like try very long in the heat. I just have to go inside. Like I literally visited a friend in Atlanta last year, and I had to just go into her car and turn the AC on at one point. So, knowing that, knowing what your pattern is. This is me at the actually at the American College of Rheumatology conference last November in Atlanta. Wait, was it the same trip? No, it was a different one. Oh, the heat is just awful. Yeah, and so I had this was a rest break on a little couch at the conference, like because it is sometimes you just have to lay down when you need to lay down. And I do, encourage you to talk to your doctor. There are certain medications for rheumatoid arthritis are better for fatigue than others. Certain of them are FDA approved for fatigue and RA. Others are just approved for like the joint symptoms and not necessarily the fatigue. So check that out. I've put a lot of stuff out there about little life hacks for medications and injections. So again, with the principle of trying to protect your small, tender thumb joints, you can use the bigger joints like in this picture rather than the tiny little thumb joint. Same exact principle here. For medications and medication containers, oops, I just accidentally turned the Robo Twist on. There's easy open ones like this one that, it can be difficult for some people if you don't have the strength, but it's easier than some of the other ones. So I did a little review, again, one of my longer, older, more boring videos than TikTok. Like 6 minutes of me talking about medication containers. You can also put for your regular prescriptions, you can, depending on the brand and the maker and everything, but I have some where you can actually take the lid and put it on backwards, and it's much easier, or upside down, and it's much easier to open. So for special relationships, things like kids and pets, so I have this amazing Unbuckle Me aid that's actually designed, I'm really proud of this, by an occupational therapist. And so it's that same exact principle of the droppy. You're seeing it over and over, but increasing the arm, the lever arm of the device, makes it so you have to apply less force. It's the same thing here, so that when you're pinching to take the car seat off. That's my 6-year-old. He's like, make sure to tell them I know how to do it myself. And so yeah, like that really, really helps. You have to do less pinching to get the kid out. Also using lightweight or flexible fabric with zippers rather than buttons really protects your thumbs too. Caring for pets. Now I'm lucky I have a small dog. He's bigger now than that picture, but he's still small. So I can do a hands-free dog leash. I know not everyone can do that with your big giant dogs, because that could be a fall hazard. I don't want you to trip and fall with your dog. But you can also train your dog not to pull on the leash, and then empty your dog food into smaller, easy open containers. So many things. This is just for fun. I know this is not practical for most people, but my husband built me this raised litter box thing for the cats, which is just really fun, and it helps me not have to bend as much. For other special relationships, like intimacy is something that occupational therapists do get trained in and ask people about and support them with. And it's something that there's kind of a stigma against talking about it sometimes, but I just wanted you to know that I do have a podcast on it. It's a great panel with 4 young women and myself all talking about, I'm 39 again, they're all in their 20s, but we're all talking about, our best tips. So, communication, positioning, timing your medication, pain relief, and scheduling were all things that came out of that conversation. If you're interested, on my Arthritis Life podcast, episode 10, easy to remember. For sleep, again, I think a lot of you probably do this naturally, but using pillows for comfort. I definitely use a body pillow. It helps with my shoulders and my hips so that it kind of keeps my knees and hips in alignment. And then these habits, when I stick to these habits, it goes better, but I can't always make myself stick to them. And it includes, keeping your bed only for rest and sleep, moving electronics away, having a winding down routine. Oh, and Mary Beth says she uses a step stool next to her litter boxes. That's a great idea. Yeah. Or even a kneeling pad if they're down on the ground. So for pumping gas, there's actually a gadget to get your own little gas cap off. There's a long, again, lever arm device here called the gas cap tool, but you can also create your own. I found actually a fun little article about a college where the engineering department had a little contest where they had groups make their own little solutions to this. And then for gardening, just as a few other miscellaneous things, because gardening is an important hobby for a lot of people, you can use those wider handled tools, long handled tools, and the kneeling pads as needed. So the key ring, I have been loving this, and this is here. I have some examples. I forgot to get my keys ready, but it allows you to, again, have this kind of mechanical advantage on your keys where you don't have to use your tiny little thumb muscles as much. And for doors, I've actually installed levers on my knob doors. So instead of having to twist like this, I could just even make a fist and just pound down, or even use your elbow to bypass your hands. I'm curious if any of you else have a hard time with the round knob doors. Oh, and Ashley says pregnancy pillow plus pillow and electronic bed frame. Ooh, to get out of bed. Yeah, electronic bed frame. That's amazing. Yeah, electric. Sorry, not electronic. That's a great idea. And then, occupational therapists could definitely help you with this, especially if you have really specific hobbies like knitting, or if you need things like hand splints. Like a lot of these kind of gloves you can definitely buy over the counter. I have a bunch of different ones for depending on how my joints are feeling that day. But a certified hand therapist, who's either an occupational therapist or physical therapist, can really, really help. So, we tend to be a bit underrepresented or underutilized in rheumatology, I think. So I'm always trying to kind of shout from the rooftops, ask your doctor for a referral to occupational therapy, or, physical therapy is great too. They don't tend to focus on like the environmental modifications as much and the kind of psychosocial aspects, but they can help definitely more for like the large motor stuff or like exercise. And some of them are a lot more into the biopsychosocial than others. Recreation therapists are great. Social workers can help you navigate the system. Counseling and therapists, because again, this affects your whole life, right? Not just your joints. So, oh, and Michelle's saying a weighted blanket. I love weighted blankets, which you'd think is unintuitive, right? Because you'd think that like, if your joints are hurting, why would you put more pressure? But it's very comforting. And actually they're used a lot, even in like pediatrics, for kids who have a hard time calming themselves. Weighted blankets and like pressure can be super helpful too. So that's a great point. So again, okay, to recap, I'm sorry, I talk really fast. So you will you'll get a copy of the recording, but I'm going to send it out on Saturday once I get the other one done too. And yes, other people are agreeing. Weighted blankets, weighted heating pad. That's like next level. If you're adding the heat to the weight, that's perfect. So in general, just try to think to yourself, okay, the first question for problem solving is like, can I change the item? Like, can I get a different item to make this easier, whether I make it or buy it? Or can I just change how I'm interacting to make my life easier and to protect my joints? And then think ahead about like all the different kinds of workarounds, ways to simplify and delegate. And so just zooming back to like the big picture, I ask myself this all the time, like, why did I have to wait for occupational therapy school to learn all of this, right? Like, why didn't you guys, those of you who have arthritis, already get taught? And there's actually a lot of studies that show that for some reason, even though arthritis is so prevalent, that like patients are just not getting the education that they need. they have, insufficient information, and they don't understand their disease very well, which, we live in the information age, so it's kind of surprising, right? And so I started thinking, the reason I formed Arthritis Life is I started thinking like, okay, this metaphor of like an orientation, right? Like when you start a new job, you get kind of like an orientation manual or a handbook or something, right? To explain to you like how to do the job. And really like over the years, I realized, wait, managing my rheumatoid arthritis, it is like a job too, but there wasn't really an orientation. Like I had to figure it out on my own and then learn more at, in occupational therapy school, but there should be something out there, right? For patients to learn how to manage it. So basically this is what I see is people, either they figure it out on their own, which is kind of like the slow way or the little bit more painful way. And it's also really confusing and it can be isolating and it costs a lot of time to try to figure it out on your own, right? Or you could get expert help, whether that's from me or from someone else, which is the faster way, but it does cost money. I'm not going to lie, but it is less stressful and it can be more supportive. You really shouldn't have to go through this on your own. Like that's one of my things I say, feel like I say this every day, kind of like on a soapbox. So, I formed the rheumatoid arthritis roadmap program. Oh, and Kate says you went to a group class. That's so great. I just think that should be the standard of care. Everyone should be given an opportunity to meet other people with it and learn from them. And for some reason, it's not happening for everyone. It's not universally available. Oh, and Ashley's asking about forearm crutches versus walker versus regular crutches. That is a very complicated individual question. That would definitely be a good one to talk to your specific care team about, because without knowing everything that's going on with you, I'm just not sure I could answer that. So I just want to explain really quick about my online program, because it's a new thing. I've only been doing for like 6 months, but it is the orientation manual. It's literally like, I kind of joke, this is like my life's work, but it's like, this is the manual I wish I had when I was diagnosed. Okay. So, it's a way to access all the support that you should have had already. And this is kind of like my before and after picture, right? This is doing it on your own or with support. So what is it? What am I talking about? It is an online course that has 8 basic units, 26 videos, a bunch of handouts, and it's about these things. It's about how to manage your physical symptoms, understand the basics of your disease, understand how to become, quote unquote, the CEO of your care team, how to manage symptoms and track your symptoms and deal with big emotions and stress and learn coping tools, and then also manage your relationships and work and hobbies when you are trying to also trying to live your life basically with this disease. So I have a self-study version and a support version, which is an 8-week-long program where we get to talk once a week, and we're going to vary the times based on people's time zones and such, and have a private online group. So you can just get more support that way. But some people are like, I want to just go through it on my own. I don't want any extra support. That's awesome too. So, and you're going to recommend it to your rheumatologist. Thank you, Marcia. That's the next. I've been like cold emailing some rheumatologists about it, but like, if they don't know me, they're just kind of like, who is this? Who is this lady? What is she talking about? But yeah, and of course I have a bunch of testimonials on the website. It's a mixture of like practical strategies, a lot of practical things, but also like the support, offering guidance, just having somebody who's been there before, because I have had rheumatoid arthritis for 17 years now. So, I have had a lot of time to figure things out on my own, but that said, everyone's journeys are different. So I can't say that I know what everyone's going through just because I've had it, because we all have different journeys. And yeah, and Ashley agrees. Oh, good. I love it when I get to preach to the choir. Ashley agrees that there should be more PT and OT earlier on. Yeah. And then, we can't even visit offices and have that in-person support right now. And I know, and I think nonprofits are amazing. And I know that the Arthritis Foundation wants to do more for newly diagnosed patients. I've talked to them a little bit about it, and it's hard to run a nonprofit, to be honest. Like, I mean, I've seen that, I've seen a lot of nonprofits having to cut their staff, and it's really heartbreaking. But but yeah, there are some great, so there is the Live Yes Connect group. I do want to say through the Arthritis Foundation, that's free and it's once a month and it's organized by geographic area. So there are things out there. What I kind of wanted to create that I didn't see out there yet was like a step-by-step comprehensive, like everything in one place. Because I think what I ended up going through is like I got bits and pieces everywhere, but then like I just felt really scatterbrained. So I like the idea of having it all in one place. And you know, it's a very validating experience. I'll say a lot, oh my gosh, yes, like I've had that too, or we've all been there. And it is, you know, initially I called it the beginner's guide to life with rheumatoid arthritis, but then I decided to rename it because so many of the people, actually some of the people that were the most happy with the course had already had rheumatoid arthritis for like 8 or 9 years or more. And I think it's because they had been through like the pain of trying to figure it out on their own. So they were like, oh, this is so helpful, you know? So, you know, resource, and I do cite all of my sources, like every single fact or recommendation I put in the course is listed, like it's hyperlinked. So, yeah. Oh, thank you guys. Again, I love preaching to the choir. So it's for you if you have rheumatoid arthritis or a similar health condition. Certainly anyone who wants to take it can take it, but that's who it's designed for. People who want to really manage the condition in their daily life and learn like practical strategies, not just for life hacks, but really honestly, my favorite thing to talk about actually is the mental side, stress and anxiety and coping. I've learned so much. I've gone to a lot of therapy. I've done a lot of training on that part too, because I think it's one of the biggest like missed areas of chronic illness. It's not just physical, it's mental too, right? Not just mental fatigue, but it's stressful. It's hard. All these unknowns everyone's experiencing with COVID, that's what we've all had to go through already. Sorry, not the symptoms of COVID, but the unknowns, right? When are we going to open again? When is this going to happen? That's how I felt for a long time because of my arthritis. You know, should I have another baby? Can I do this? How do I plan my life? Can I become an occupational therapist? You know, it's really, really hard. So I do want to clarify, it is not for people who, it isn't the right course for you if you want to purchase a course that is designed to heal or cure your RA, because that is not my focus, but you can definitely take this course in conjunction with alternative therapies. I know 2 people already who have, and but I'm really focused on like, let's just assume that you have RA and it's not going to be cured or healed. What can you do? How can you actually live your life in a way that you are enjoying your life to the best extent possible? And, you know, if you want to also pursue like a curing or healing, that's just not my specialty. And it also isn't for you if you don't want to commit time or energy into learning it, because you have to actually look at the videos and learn if you want to get something out of it. Or if you kind of are at a place where you just feel like no matter what you do, you feel badly, and you're not really willing to open your mind up to like that you can actually feel better. Or manage your disease and feel confident about that. So if you are interested, the link is bit.ly/arthritis course, all in lowercase. Let me just put that in here. And I am giving you a special discount code. So you may not want to leave right this second. I'm sorry. I'm like, oh, I just love talking about this. And it's open through October 10th. Oh, this is supposed to say like special offer. There it goes. So if you enter the code early bird, you have a $50 off coupon for the self-study version. And if you enter the early bird support code, you get $100 off of the premium support version. So this expires on Sunday, the special offer. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to stick around a little bit. I'm sorry I went a little bit. Actually, no, it's not. I haven't gone over yet. It's exactly 5 o'clock my time. Perfect. Oh, and thank you, Kate. Kate, the citizen Kate. Yeah, oh, yeah. And yes, there's the mental side of it is so important, and being able to find humor, you know, is for me really empowering, right? It doesn't mean that, oh, my life is so easy and silly, I just make fun videos. It just means I can kind of temporarily rise above it. So, and because sometimes it's hard to see, it's like really tiny where the coupon code is. Like this is where you put the coupon code. That's where it looks. Oh, you're welcome. And if you want to chat, if you have more questions, I know some people are like, I want to talk to somebody. And yeah, so the cost of the self-study is $197 without the code. So with the discount is $147. And then it's $397 for the 8-week support version, the premium support. And so that'd be $297 with the discount code. So, oh, I'm so glad, Cindy, you're liking the podcast. And I'm so glad that you guys are, oh, thank you all. Yeah. Oh, and if you can't do that, I do also offer like a sliding scale. So, and that's very like, again, I'm a solopreneur. I mean, like I'm like literally it. Like I'm the company. So I can give people, you know, if you're on disability or you have special circumstances, I can give you a customized coupon and you know, on an individual basis. So if you want to talk about that, email, oops, I can't spell email, info@myarthritislife.net. And I also am doing 20-minute phone calls at this Calendly, where I can just chat with you all next week, and a little bit tomorrow and this weekend too, if you just want to like ask, you know, specific questions to me. And I also have a free Facebook group. Oh my gosh, I'm still talking. Okay, I gotta stop talking. Okay, so any other questions before I leave? This is where you can find me on social media. I think you have to have a lot more followers than I do on YouTube to actually make your own customized channel name. So I just have to like, you have to just look up Arthritis Life in quotations. And yeah, I will be sending a link. I try to be efficient by having only one sign up for the webinar, whether it's today or Saturday. But then I realized the problem with that is that then I'm like, wait, how am I gonna do this when like I want to just send you guys the recording tonight, but then it's like I don't want to give it away to the people who are supposed to come Saturday. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a second. But yeah, oh, I'm so glad. You know, what's funny is someone told me this before doing a podcast, that a lot of times people won't give you feedback about a podcast. And it's true. Like I haven't heard from a ton of people. I have heard definitely from some, but I love hearing from people if they're listening, because I can see that people are listening, but not a lot of people are telling me that they're listening. So yeah, so if you have any other questions, I'm here for a few more minutes. I see people maybe dropping off a little bit, but you know, any last minute things before I go get my little 6-year-old? Thank you so much about the podcast. I'm so glad. I listen to podcasts on my walks too. And oh, I'm so glad it was informative. Yay. Thank you all. Oh, cold therapy. So, I don't like cold. Let's see. I don't like to be too hot. I don't like to be too cold. I'm a little bit picky, aren't I? Yeah. Oh, so the presentation will be the same on Saturday. Yeah, I'm giving this exact same presentation on Saturday. So unless you're like really want to hear it again, you don't need to come on Saturday too.